righty, we are back again, everybody. Yes, this is it. Today, we're talking about the Expat Healthcare Showdown, Korean National Health Insurance versus the Affordable Care Act. Who is going to win? Who's going to get more coverage? Who's going to pay more? Who's going to get better quality health care? Yeah, it'll be pretty interesting. I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, American expat here in Korea, and today we're going to be talking about the Korean National Health Insurance. So for those people that are interested in retiring in Korea, I use that term loosely. Like myself, I have an F1 visa. My wife has an F4 visa because of her Korean ancestry, and that's how we're able to stay in Korea. Other people are able to stay because of work visas, education visas, and so on. George pops in and says, howdy. So there he is, bright and early, or late in the evening, where, depending on where you're from. But with that, we're talking about the differences between Korean National Health Insurance and ACA, or the American Care Act, which came during the Obama administration. And for those people that could read and comprehend when that came out, yeah, a lot of people didn't read the fine print, and it's biting us in the butt. And universal health care for all. It wasn't really universal, and it's not a good thing. But like I said, there's people out there that are considering on being expats here in Korea, whether you're from the United States or other countries. One of the requirements is that you have healthcare insurance, either through the Korean government, which is a one-pay system, or you have your own healthcare insurance that will meet the requirements to use that in lieu of the Korean National Health Insurance. So that's kind of a thing that you need to do. So we have Terry pops up in the morning. Morning, Steve. Morning, Terry. Good to have you aboard. We're talking about the Korean National Healthcare and ACA. Oh, of course, there, the pirate. Afternoon. He's here as well. So we're going to take we got some people here. We're talking about the Korean National Healthcare versus American or Affordable Care Act, which is, it's not affordable, and the care is substandard, and it's an act. It truly is an act. But people have been asking me to do a more detailed look into Korean National Health Insurance, and I thought it'd be a good thing to compare it against the Affordable Care Act. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into that. And for the people that are interested in being in Korea as an expat on a visa, again, no illegal immigration, no loopholes by abusing the tourist visa to stay here longer. Many countries are cracking down on immigration, so you got to be careful to that. Corsair says, a subject near and dear to my heart, which is healthy, fortunately. Congratulations. I highly recommend that people exercise, have good nutrition, do some cardio, because that will do wonders for your health. Just to let you know, weight resistance training, whether it's body weight, machines, free weights, or a combination of all those things, whatever it is, dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, just medicine balls, whatever it is, that weight resistance training is showed to combat against sarcopenia, which is a muscle wasting that occurs with people as they get older. So it is a great way to actually stave off sarcopenia, and with good nutrition, you can actually gain muscle or maintain muscle as you go into your golden years and retire and enjoy it. Better quality of life, better health outcomes. So, for example, besides combating like brittle bone disease and things like that, staying active helps with your immune system. It also helps with heart health. Again, the muscles, ligaments, all that kind of stuff. You better survive with slips, trips, and falls if you work out than otherwise. And I've seen that with elder family members that I had. It is quite the interesting thing. And if you do cardio, I don't know if you know this, 75 minutes to 150 minutes of cardio a week. And that doesn't mean like running an Olympic triathlon or 10K every day or whatever. No, we're just talking about getting elevated heart rates. You can reduce heart-related issues up to 50%. So yeah, better quality of life, better health. I highly recommend everybody exercise and of course have good nutrition. Hey, we got Almost Retired here in Living in Korea group on Facebook. They wouldn't let that guy re-enter after his visa run. Any idea what happened? Yeah, like I said, they're cracking down. In previous videos I talked about, I looked into my crystal ball and I said that countries are going to crack down on immigration and the gray areas and the loopholes. And lo and behold, a lot of countries did, including Korea, because there's such an outlay. There's an increase of crime. There's a lot of different variables, but one is an increase in crime. Another one is losing a tax base or losing taxes by people that are here illegally or abusing the system. As a tourist, you don't pay taxes. But if you stay long term in Korea, you have to pay taxes. It's kind of a thing, And there's the requirement for health insurance. People that try to skirt the system, they're cracking down. So I haven't heard any of that about Living in Korea group on Facebook. Hey, if you could post a link for that, I don't know if I'm a member of that or not, but I would be interested in reading that. But through the news sources and things, they are cracking down on immigration and visa runs and border runs, whatever you want to call them, to kind of skirt the system to stay in Korea longer, not as a tourist. A lot of countries are going through that. So yeah, it is. It's always better to be above board with all these things. It just makes life easier. You don't have to remember the lies that you told or anything like that. Imagine if that's true. If you had somebody that stayed in Korea for a long time, and then, and you have an apartment, you have stuff, you have, friends and, important documents, banking, and you do a visa run and you come back and Korea says, no. I mean, it'd be like, sorry, you can't come in anymore. That would be...
No. Wait.
Yeah, that would be really horrible. Imagine all of your stuff in Korea and you can't come in. They deport you. Holy crow, that would be crazy. Terry pops up and says, for diabetics, Ozempic and metformin cause muscle loss. Yeah, I mean, there are some concerns with different medications. As always, the problem is with the healthcare or the medication for losing weight, like tirzepatide or Wegovy or similar things, you can lose some muscle mass, but generally that's attributed to not wanting to eat, because it kind of gives you this full feeling. It doesn't, it kind of removes the cravings. And of course it activates, the GLP-1 or GLHP-1 or whatever, to burn more stores of your body fat. And then it generally makes you feel sometimes nauseous. I know some people that are on tirzepatide and they're a little bit nauseous, and so they don't want to eat as much, and so they will lose muscle mass because they're not eating enough protein. I do know a guy who lifts and is a pretty good sized guy, and he's on tirzepatide through a clinic and a doctor here in Korea, and he lost 30 pounds. Holy crow. And he says he has to make a point to eat protein, because he doesn't want to eat sugar, doesn't want to eat carbs. His protein intake was severely reduced, and he says he has to make a conscious effort to eat protein to maintain his muscle mass. So, and he was a big boy. I'm 260. I think he said he was like 280, 290-ish, something like that. And he's down like 30 some odd pounds. It is amazing. That's a tirzepatide. So, let's see. Almost Retired pops up and says it's called Retiree and Veteran Support in Korea. Really? I think I might have belonged to that. Let me see if I can find that. That sounds really, really familiar. So let's pop this up here. Okay, come on. Retiree. Yeah, veteran and support in Korea. Really? I do belong to that page. I'll have to check that out. Oh, here it is. Let's see what happens. Let's just jump into this because this looks kind of interesting. Yeah. Oh, as far as Corsair pops up and he says 30 pounds includes 12 pounds of muscle. No, he lost some muscle, and then just for the fact that he wasn't taking in enough protein, then he started eating more protein, but he looked like a different person, and just pretty impressed, I would say. So anyway, this is the Retiree and Veteran Support Group of Korea, which is a great group. I highly recommend it. And this is the thing. A fellow veteran contacted me that he has a fellow veteran. So a fellow veteran that he has a veteran needing some help. A fellow veteran living in Camp Humphreys when he went to Japan for his 90-day visa. What I was telling you about the loopholes. When he tried to re-enter Korea, they wouldn't let him back in. I recommended he contact the U.S. Embassy, but he wants to talk to a live person from this site. I told him to post here for some help, but I'm doing it because he contacted me. Is the individual. It's an immigration issue, in my opinion. Let's see if we can get all the comments in here. And Jonathan says there's got to be more to the story. There always is. Yes, there is, but not for me to say. Well, without any details, it's difficult to ascertain the situation. Contact that person. For all who want to know more about the story, on his Facebook. And yeah, there's something going on. Sounds like the veteran didn't have a legitimate visa to live in Korea and try to do a visa run in Japan. The Korean government has been cracking down on people who do this. It would be 100% be an immigration issue. He should be contacting Korean immigration directly. That's absolutely true. This guy Phil says, 2 years ago, while my wife and I were visiting Korea, one-way trip to Japan, during our check-in at the airport to return to Korea, my wife showed her F4 visa, no problem. They wouldn't let me board the plane until I showed them I had a flight reserved to leave Korea. So if your friend books a flight from Korea to U.S., they will probably let him return to Korea. After that, he can cancel the reservation. Needless to say, he should probably get the correct visa that allows him to stay in Korea long term. That is definitely something. My wife has F4 visa. I have an F1 visa. We've traveled, and every time we come back, we just show our Korean registration cards with basically our visa ID cards, and we've had zero problems. Matter of fact, we have gotten better and faster service at the airports of coming back into Korea than, it's like a fast track. Boom, you're in. Sarah says, a 90-day visa is for tourists. Again, it's a thing. Being a veteran has nothing to do with it, and I 100% agree with this. If he doesn't have the correct visa, Korean immigration has no obligation to let him in the country, regardless of how inconvenient it may be for him. I love it when people use common sense. I'm not sure of the understanding of what he expects the embassy to do if the Korean government is simply following its own laws. He should probably hop into this discussion and shed some light on the Paul Harvey version of the story. That's not the right way to live in country. You need to apply for the correct visa in the category. Absolutely. Seriously, really? We're going to skirt the system to stay in Korea, do visa runs to Japan, which I have heard people doing, and staying in Korea for a long time prior. It's absolutely. CB pops in. Excuse me. Morning, Steve. On the plus side, it seems you and I are getting daily pay raises. Daily pay raises. I would love daily pay raises. I I don't know what daily pay raises. If we're getting pay raises every day, it sounds like we're politicians voting on our own pay raises. I don't want to be a politician, but I'll take the pay raise. So, yeah. So, anyway, not really good stuff when it comes to immigration fraud because, like I said, many years ago and throughout recent years, countries are kicking up their efforts to enforce their immigration laws and actually creating new laws to get people from abusing the system. And again, if you're a tourist, you're a tourist. CB says, oh yeah, the exchange rates. Yes, the exchange rates are insane. Yes, it is the one exchange rate. And I think what is the current exchange rate? I want to say it's like 1447 USD to won exchange rate. Ooh, it went up. It went up a little bit. We're looking at 1466. Ooh, that is a great rate for us. That is a great rate for us. It's bad for the Koreans. CV says, maybe from the tariffs? No, it's a little bit more than tariffs. Even with the news that Korea and the United States had come to, pretty sure, almost a deal with the tariff situation, usually with that you would find out and the market would reciprocate and saying, hey, it's going to be favorable between the U.S. and Korea. Korea's going to have to pay less in tariffs. They're still hammering out that deal. But the Kospi has been up, and there's some other factors that was like, hey, we're doing pretty good as far as growth here in Korea in the economy. Kospi dipped back down a little bit, but the outlier is the exchange rate, which some Korean economists, according to my wife when she was watching the news, that they're kind of like, wait, this isn't really right. But then there's also the fact that, you look into how much money the Korean government has, how much U.S. dollars it has, what debt Korea has, and so on and so forth. You have to look at their national debt. There's a lot of different variables out there, and there's a little bit of uncertainty. And a lot of that was with the Korean president and that whole issue, so that kind of prolonged it. We're still in a recession. So we have those things. We have inflation. It's really just kind of interesting. So, 1467, 66, 67, and usually about in the exchange, money exchange places on the Korean economy, they will give you a better exchange rate than the banks. And usually it's kind of like 3 or 5 won less, somewhere within that range, sometimes 7, depending on how they feel. And if you exchange $100 bills, you can get a better exchange rate even still. So be sure to ask about that if you're exchanging money, U.S. dollars to won. And if you have $100 bills, and if you have a lot, you can get a better deal even more. So Corsair says, start buying some won and sock it away. It's going to go back down. Yeah, I mean, it's like dollar cost averaging. Every month we exchange U.S. dollars for won. And in the grand scheme of things, especially now that it's in the 1460s, 1450s, you're going to get a great exchange rate, which means that your dollar is going to go further, and it's actually whatever you pay money for is going to be less. So, yeah, that's a good deal. Good deal. Hey, we got Sparky here. Morning. Korean won is down a lot. Yes, it is. Yes. Makes it even cheaper for living costs. Absolutely, yeah, we've noticed that. So that's kind of a thing there for sure. Let's see. We want to get back on track to talking about expenses and money. We're going to get back into the healthcare thing because people have been asking for that, and so we're going to jump into this. And this is what we're going to take a look at here. So I've got some stuff that was written up, and we're going to go over it. And we'll just kind of read this here. South Korea, can I read that? Operates as a true single universal payer system, which is the National Health Insurance Service. It's mandatory for all residents, including long-term expats, kind of like myself. Functions as a national social insurance program. The USA has the Affordable Care Act. Is not universal health care. So yeah, we'll just leave this up here because I'm not that pretty. It's a regulated private insurance marketplace with subsidies, expansions of Medicare for low income, and mandates layered on multi-payer systems dominated by employer-sponsored plans. Medicare, Medicaid, about 92% of Americans have coverage in 2025, but about 8% are uninsured. Korean National Health Insurance is far cheaper, more comprehensive care, delivers better population health outcome at half the cost per capita. ACA improved access over pre-2010 levels, but remains expensive and complex. And the Affordable Care Act pretty much only added, it only hit about, 20, I can't remember, like 25 or 30, 40 million people. So really, the Affordable Care Act, and if anybody had read the fine print when that came out, the majority of people didn't. And unfortunately, they're, healthcare for everyone. Yay, let's vote for this guy. And a lot of people voted for that guy. I didn't vote for him. I'm an independent. So anyway, it ends up, we got the affordable healthcare. And, it was so great and so wonderful, but it's private insurance and there's prices have gone up. All of these things have gone up and it's going to get massively more expensive. So in other words, they kicked the can down the road. And really, it was just a political ploy to get somebody in office, in my opinion. When you compare that and you look at the Korean National Health Insurance, the United States could have just copied what Korea was doing to give health care for everyone, but they don't want to do that. ACA is going to get horribly expensive unless they do something. So it's going to be bad. CB says, my wife wants to put U.S. dollars in a local bank every day, but I tell her to wait a bit. I don't know. If it's for us, if it's over 1350, it's a great time to buy. Because usually the norm is around 11 or 1200. Those were the norms back in the day. And so when you get into 13 and 14 and the high 14s, you're really going to be making some money. And basically kind of like doing currency, currency trading and so on and so forth. But yeah, we exchange it when the won is high, and when it really peaks out, then we'll run to the bank, we'll get money, and we'll exchange it, and we'll just sock it away. And, there we go. It's a good thing for us. It's bad for the Koreans, though, in the Korean nationals, in the Korean economy. George says, I have nothing nice to say about ACA. It cut off my Medicare in the middle of chemo and saddled me with overnight with millions in debt. Ooh, I've heard so many people say that exact same thing with serious illness and so on and so forth. And there's the problem of pre-existing conditions and a lot of other issues with ACA that people didn't read what it was going to entail. They just heard free healthcare and people just, that's great. Reading is and comprehension. Those are perishable skills. I don't know what Japan norm is anymore. Let's see. Corsair says you buy some every month or week and you'll get the best rate that day. Yeah, so kind of like when you're exchanging dollars for won, if you do dollar cost averaging, it's kind of the same thing. You do as the market goes up and down, you're going to kind of keep with the market. But we just try to buy on the highs. We make it a point to be apprised of the exchange rate, and it works out pretty well. Terry says you can only buy from the marketplace in your state, and some states only have one marketplace to buy from. Yep. You can't buy from a marketplace in another state. Some states have several marketplaces. And again, the plans and all that stuff are varied. You're not getting it's just really bad. When you start looking and comparing it to the Korean National Health Insurance, you're like, holy crow. In the United States, we're idiots. But Korea, a country of 50 some odd million people, and they have a great healthcare coverage system that has been sustainable for a long, long time. And the end result of it is end result is that people have healthier lives and get good quality health care. That's what we want. But no, the politicians that are in the United States have come up with strange things to try to get people elected, and it's really not about giving affordable health care. So, yeah. CB says the yuan and yen seem to move in tandem. Yeah, they're kind of around that same level as things go up and down and whatever, according to or against the U.S. dollar, which is kind of interesting. So let's jump into this. We're going to talk about national health insurance, the NHIS, and then Affordable Care Act, which is kind of rough. There's some little simple things that I kind of concise down. The first one is a general coverage. When you have the Korean National Health Insurance, it's a universal single payer, mandatory for all residents, more than 6 months of stay, and you get 100% coverage of the population. Now, for us, when we got here and we got our SOFA cards, or not our SOFA cards, but our Korean registration cards, our visas were approved. 90 days after, we received a notification in the mail saying, hey, you need to, either have Korean National Health Insurance or some substitute that meets their requirements. So, yeah, that will come in the mail, and some people were asking about that. When we talk about American Care Act, it is a private insurance marketplace. Subsidies for, 100 to 400%, not universal. 24 million enrolled in the marketplace out of a population of 340 million. So, and when you really get into the weeds of this, of the Affordable Care Act, and you see how much it costs and the care that you get, it's for 24 million people, it's not really. And then they said if you don't sign up for it, you're going to get penalized and fined. Holy crow. I mean, it makes the Korean National Health Insurance look like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So, yeah, there's that. The other thing we're going to look at, who's it for? Korean health insurance, everyone. Expats on visa, employees, self-employed, their dependents, boom, you are covered. Whereas ACA, the primary individuals without employer, Medicaid, Medicare coverage, income-based subsidies, employer plans covering 160 million are separate and often better or cheaper. So, yeah, it's a substandard product. If we look at monthly premiums, if you're employed, you're going to pay about $70 to $180. Half is going to be paid by your employer. If you're self-employed or regional, it's about $90 to $140, which is for people like me who are retired here and my wife, we would pay around $100, $110, and it's income asset-based, and no one is denied. So pre-existing conditions, a whole 9 yards. It's like, hey, you're a productive member of society. You pay your premiums and you're going to get health care. Let's look over at ACA. Before subsidies, $450 to $625 for the silver plan. After subsidies, 0 to hundreds. Many paid less than $10 a month with enhanced credits in 2025, but those are going to expire at the end of this year, it's November. We're going to see some huge jumps that were written into the system. And again, it was just a tool for politicians to use to get them elected, and it really gives substandard care. It's still expensive. And if you don't have it, then you get penalized and you get fined. I mean, seriously, really? That's how we're going to do American citizens? Absolutely crazy. When you take a look at deductibles, there is no annual deductible. So as soon as you sign up for Korean National Health Insurance, like we went to the hospital and we see the international office and it's like, hey, we're coming here and we need to sign up or whatever. Boom, yeah, you just jump and go on Korean National Health Insurance. We have TRICARE Overseas Select, so we have an annual deductible, which is, I don't know, it's like $300 or something like that, and then our copays start. There's no, once a year, it ends up you have to pay that deductible, and so you go in and it's like, hey, your annual fee is due. Okay, do that, and then you have your copays. There's not any like time difference or wait times that you have to do when you get to the hospital in the international office in a participating hospital here in Korea. You can automatically just pay whatever it is, and you're good to go. They're really efficient over here. For Affordable Care Act, the average is $27.89, often $5,000 to $9,000 for silver or bronze plans, lower for gold and platinum, $1,000 to $3,000. I mean, ACA is bad. TRICARE that I had as a military retiree is better, and then Korean National Health Insurance is, there is no annual deductible. So, yeah, do the math. Pretty simple. Even I can do that math. The other thing, copays, cost sharing, 20 to 40% of most services, clinic visits, $5 to $15 total. You pay $2 to $6. Inpatient is 10 to 20. Prescriptions are fixed low fee, so you're not going to have the problems of, a 10-cent pill that you can get in some other state or some foreign country, and you go to some other state in the United States and it's like $15 a pill. It's regulated here in Korea. So I really appreciate the pharmacy and the drugs that are in Korea because the pricing is low and you're not getting bent over. ACA, you're going to have 10 to 40% of the co-insurance after the deductible. You're going to have that, fixed copay common, varies by the tier that you're on. And and again, people don't understand that ACA is a private insurance marketplace, basically. So you're going to have varying costs between the different providers or care or insurance companies that you have, basically, the private companies, and that's going to change the price of certain things with medical health care. So again, it's not really affordable medical health care because if you don't get it, they're going to penalize you to begin with. And you're still going to have this, you might pay more with this company or less with this company or more with this company. Again, there's just so many different things. In Korea, you don't have to worry about that. It's set. It's fixed. The prices are low. The medical care is good. I don't know. The more I look at this, it just pisses me off. But yeah, what's new? We look at out-of-pocket costs. The maximum cost for annual income-based for catastrophic cap is $3,500 to $6,000. We're talking about the middle or average income. Once hit, 100% coverage, including cancer at 5%, with Korean National Health Insurance. Can't do that in the United States. When you look at affordable care, $9,450 for the individual, almost $20,000 for the family. Subsidies lower, less than 400%, 0 to 3,000. Again, there is no comparison here. Korean National Health Insurance just blows the Affordable Care Act because it's neither affordable and the care is questionable. And if a politician really wanted to do something for the American people in regards to healthcare, they would look at Korea or look at Japan and look at these systems that provide good healthcare at low cost. But no, we have, the medical lobbyists, the pharmaceutical lobbyists, and so on and so forth that are just going to bend over. And the insurance lobbyists, they're going to artificially drive up prices of goods and services in the healthcare system in the United States. And they've been doing it for so long. There's so much corruption there. And as soon as it's insurance unchecked. And when insurance is unchecked, then prices just go up and up and up and up. So the prices for medications here in Korea are way less. And even in other countries, what you'll pay $100 for some medications, you'll pay $3 or $4 in other countries. So it's really doing a disservice to people in the United States. Terry pops up and says, dun, 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 I got a 2.8% Social Security raise, and they let me know that Medicare Part B premium is going up 9.7%. Ouch. Ouch. In military retirement is tied to kind of like the same thing as Social Security. So we're going to get an increase on that. And then veterans disability, they're going to get an increase. So yeah, there's that. Yeah. George says, follow the money. The politicians made a fortune off of it. Oh, yes, they did. And it's absurd. Yes, it is absolutely absurd. So anyway, yeah, the out-of-pocket maximums are, and the thing is that people in the United States don't know that there are better systems out there for healthcare insurance. They're just kind of like, oh, Affordable Care Act. This is the best thing since sliced bread. And it's like your provincial little blinders that you have on, and you only see what you experience. When you start looking at other countries and how they run their healthcare, and case in point, being in Korea or being in Japan or some other foreign country, and you get this realization, the light comes on, the heavens open up, and you're going like, we've been shafted for years, and we're probably the greatest country in the world. Why do we have such substandard care when it comes to healthcare? I don't know. It really is absurd. Happy in Soko. Hey, welcome to the show. Healthcare is tremendously less expensive here in Korea than in the U.S. I saw a local orthopedist last week, consult doctor, x-rays, diagnosis, and paid about $100 out of pocket. Yeah. Try getting x-rays or look at, yeah, compare the prices. It is absolutely insane. Yeah, absolutely crazy. Back in the U.S., this would have cost 4 times as much. Oh, yeah, easily. Yeah, 2, 3, 4 times as much. Maybe more, depending on where you live. If you're in some place in California, New York or whatever, it's just absolutely crazy. I just asked Claude, what do I need to do about Medicare when I get it and move to Korea? Told me to sign up for Part B, and then I'll have it if I ever come back. Yeah, and I'll show you a link that you can check out for the Korean National Healthcare Insurance site, and then also for another website that has some great information that explains, when you get to that age, should you not get Medicare, which one should you get, so on and so forth. Again, you're going to make your own decision, but yeah, hang on and watch this, and we'll get to that. So yeah, definitely check that out. Otherwise, I'll have to pay a penalty when I get back there. Yeah, and there are penalties, because if you don't sign up for it and then you go back to the United States and you want to get back onto it, there's a certain fee or penalty, a percentage that you have to pay for each year that you're off it, that you need to make up for paying into it. Again, it's a horrible healthcare system we have. But yeah, when you start experiencing the other stuff in Korea, you're just like, why aren't we doing this? Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. ACA problems in late 2025, a concise summary. Basically, what we're going to end up with is subsidies are going to expire. Again, government subsidies that tax money for 24 million people or whatever it was, that's going to basically double or more. And yeah. So you're looking at $10 a month, either $300 to $700 a month. And, as we can see there, gross premiums are going to be 18 to 26% higher, highest in years. So it's the Affordable Care Act is neither affordable or caring. If we look at number 2, high deductible and cost sharing, average deductible is $2,800 to maybe even $9,000. Many paid little until hitting it. Then care is delayed as well. And then there's also authorization. There are some problems with Affordable Care Act and the private insurance that are backing these things and the plans. You have to play by their rules. And some people have complained that, the anesthesiologist that you used was not in network. And it's, well, I got the surgery in an in-network hospital. How come the anesthesiologist wasn't in network in that hospital? And so they're on the hook for paying all that. Yeah, there's a lot. And then the authorizations for treatments and surgeries and so on and so forth. These private insurance companies, have people that aren't even doctors that are denying insurance for diagnosis and care given by doctors saying, "Hey, this is an absolute necessity." We're not talking about Botox or plastic surgery. We're talking about things that the patient absolutely needs to have. And even then, the Affordable Care Act are having problems with that. And so, yeah, it's an act of lunacy, is what it comes down to. Then we end up having denials and prior authorization hell. Insurances routinely deny and delay care, drugs, imaging procedures. Appeals are often succeed, but are exhausting. AI-driven denials are a thing, and unfortunately, with affordable care, that's what we end up seeing is that you're just automatically denied. So instead of a human saying you're automatically denied and you need to go through the process, now it's all computer driven and it's hard to even talk to real people. So AI is going to be a bane of our existence in some areas. It can be good and it can be bad. And when it comes to Affordable Care Act, it is definitely going to be bad. The other thing is the risk of losing coverage. Millions expected to drop plans or go uninsured in 2026 if Congress doesn't extend the subsidies. And it's currently stalled in this situation. And this is a huge problem because it's subsidized at such a high rate, which is putting more debt onto the books, which means more taxes need to be collected, and we're getting substandard care. I mean, you're only getting 24 million people are getting coverage through the Affordable Care Act. Thank God I have my military TRICARE, Overseas Select, so that I don't have to pay a fine or a fee or whatever it is. It is absolutely lunacy. And Korea's like, nope, you're not going to lose coverage. You're going to get all the coverage that you need. So when people ask me why I like Korea and why I retired over here in Korea, the big thing is going to be expenses. Second thing is going to be the quality of healthcare. And with my military retirement, I still have all of the good benefits of the Korean healthcare system. So yeah, it is unfortunate that the United States is going this route. Let's see, we got some other comments here. Let's jump back in here. Corsairs, he said, otherwise I'll have to pay a penalty when I get back forever, about $227 a month. Yeah, we talked about that, and we'll hit that up a little bit later. Terry says, no matter what healthcare plan they come up with in the States, they will be corrupted by fraud and corruption. Yeah, lobbyists and so on and so forth. Again, it's not for the good of the people, it's for the good of the politicians and the insurance company and the lobbyists. Everybody's got to, grease their palms to get paid. And unfortunately, the U.S. citizens are getting it in the shorts with a lot of sand. Terry says they just busted a group of doctors that defrauded Medicare for $400 million. Yeah. As an independent, I think our government needs to have a system of checks and balances and some oversight, and we've been without oversight for so long. The corruption has got so ingrained into the system that that's going to be a drop in the bucket. There's going to be a ton more found out. And I was reading an article about the GAO, Government Accounting Office, and how I can't remember it, but it was some massive, it's like 600 million or something in fraud. It's just insane, totally insane, because everything is left, the fox is in the hen house, is what it is, unfortunately. So, yeah, absolutely crazy. Advantages of Korean national healthcare over the ACA. It is truly universal and mandatory. No uninsured gaps, no pre-existing condition denials. I've never heard of that being an issue. Much lower costs, 1/4 or 1/5 of the unsubsidized affordable care, no deductibles, effective catastrophic protection, prevents medical bankruptcy, which is rare in Korea, but is pretty common in the United States. It's a simple system. It's one card, one system. Prices are regulated nationally. In other words, you're going to have an MRI or an X-ray. It's going to be the same price everywhere in Korea. Better value, Korea spends half per capita, yet has longer life expectancy, lower infant maternal mortality, and high patient satisfaction. So, yeah, I think the U.S. is screwed. It's just almost retired says, Corsair, if you live in Korea and never plan to return, money advice, just select an Advantage plan and get your premiums reimbursed. Worth checking into. Worth checking into. Yeah, and there's some, the Medicare, and if you do go back to the States, I mean, I always think you ought to have a plan B. Don't put all your ducks in one basket or one oven, put them in multiple ovens no, it's eggs in basket. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Always have a backup plan. Ducks in an oven. Where did I get that from? Holy crow. So yeah, we're talking about the differences between Korean national health care and the Affordable Care Act, which is neither affordable or caring in any act whatsoever. And the fact that it just gives health care to such a small segment of our nation, and compared to Korea that has 100% coverage with better care, and the outcome is longer life expectancy, lower infant and
maternal
mortality rates, it's better quality of care. It's absolutely insane. You got the hospitals in the United States that look all nice and pretty, and you got the piano in the in the foyer and all this stuff. I could give a damn about that. I don't care about the marble and this and that, and the CEOs that are making buttloads of money were not able to give quality health insurance or health care to United States citizens when you look at other countries, and Korea is one of those. So I really appreciate that, aside from the doctor's strike that we had. So I did promise you that we're going to take a look at a couple of things and some websites here. So the first one, I'll just go ahead and put it into the comments section there. Boom. And this is the National Health Insurance Service that we're going to take a look at. And the website, that is in English, to help you get a look on this. So this is their website here, and welcome to National Health Insurance Service, global leader in universal health coverage, and contributes to the lifelong health and happiness for all. And there's smiling, happy family, and oh yes, it's just so good. Got some interesting information. They got some guidance for foreigners, national health insurance benefits, so you can take a look at this, and you can get insurance benefits, healthcare benefits, checkups, like when we take a look at this, general healthcare checkup expenses free of charge. 17 items include blood tests, and other items are added according to age. Those suspicious of certain things like high blood pressure or diabetes will have a second test. Cancer checkups for those, cost sharing is 90%, the beneficiary is 10. Co-payments, it just kind of breaks down everything here to give you, and when you compare that to the Affordable Care Act, you're like, why aren't we doing this? And it shows some ceilings and hospital stays and all that stuff. Additional benefits that come into play. It is just really a good system. And if you notice down here, it has a English call center. So not only do you have the website that you could take a look at for this, when we're talking about the national health insurance for Korea, population coverage, 100%. Boom. And there's a breakdown. Employee insured, because employees pay into this as well, and that's about 70%. Self-employed, that's about 27%. And then medical aids is about 1 million. And it's a thing. It's working quite well. So, and the dependents. So it is just a far superior system with that. George ends up saying, seriously, I gotta hit the button again. Is it a new chandelier in a haunted house because the quality of care is falling apart? Yes, the new chandelier. It looks great, but when it comes down to what you pay and all this stuff. And the other thing that bothered me for, medical care in the United States under the Affordable Care Act or even before, is there was no transparency in the costs that you were paying. It's like, here's your bill, thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's like, Well, I want a breakdown of how much, what costs what. How much was the ringer lactate? How much was the Band-Aid? And, this and that, and all the things that you had to go in for and you received, Band-Aids, bandages, and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, no, we can't tell you. Well, what do you mean? Well, how much was my x-ray? Well, we can have, there's no, so in other words, and then an administration came along and said, hey, there needs to be transparency so that you can find out what these costs are. And when that happened, that actually gave people some power to say, okay, well, wait a second, you're charging, $150 for a bag of ringer lactate, saline solution that you're, seriously, really, costs like $1 to get. And people have been able to get their bills down, but that shouldn't be on the people. That's not the responsibility of the people. And the fact that they weren't given the opportunity to see what things cost and to kind of confront and say, yeah, no, that's $10 for a Band-Aid? No. That's insane. And the medical bills are so padded, and it's just insane. In the insurance companies, don't get me started. Gee whiz. Almost Retired says, just chat GBT'd it. You must live within the service area. You would probably have to travel back to the U.S. each year. Oh, I think you're talking about that Medicaid or Medicaid stuff. And depending on where your primary residence is. So be careful with that. My primary residence is Korea, so yeah. George says, when I had my first seizure, they told me I had to wait 6 months to see a doctor. Ouch, I know. And some of that happened here in Korea as well, especially during the doctor strike. Prior to the doctor strike, you could get appointments, not a problem. But like I said, with the doctor strike, it pushed appointments for everybody in Korea back 6 to 8 months, sometimes even more. Some Koreans, well-off Koreans or people were going to foreign countries to get tests and medical care or whatever, or they shopped around to different hospitals, which is something that people really didn't do a lot. But because of the doctor strike that was going on, that was a huge problem. The doctor strike is over in Korea. It's like, yay, it's over. But we're still not at pre-strike levels as far as appointments. We're still getting backlogs. And case in point, my mental health appointment that I have at Samsung Medical Center was about 2.5 months. So, yeah, it's still, whereas before it would have been, weeks, just a few weeks, and boom, I would be able to get an appointment. So we're still seeing the after effects of the strike, and it's probably not going to clear up for another year or 2 years for everything to catch back up. So, yeah. 6 months to wait. That's crazy. That's insane. Corsair says, don't exactly know how what the follow-on plan is yet, but I will keep it in mind. Yeah. It's just crazy. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, and this really challenges your view as an American citizen. This really, kind of brings to your mind, it's like, maybe we're not as great as what we thought we were, because that's all we're used to is what we've been fed. And then when you go overseas and go to other countries, and I've traveled around, and you see the cost of medications, just the cost of medications. And you're like, holy crap, people are getting charged $500, $1,000 for a prescription, the exact same medication made by the exact same company. You get it in Mexico, or you get it in Canada, or you go to Korea, or go to other countries, Thailand, South America, Panama, Costa Rica. The same medications are significantly less. We're talking about $40, $50. It's just insane. And that just kind of opens up your eyes, and it just highlights how corrupt we have become in this area of healthcare, in the United States. And we've been sold a bill of goods, unfortunately. And the politicians get involved, and the lobbyists get involved, and everybody gets involved, and insurance goes up, prices go up, insurance goes up, prices go up, and of course the politicians get the kickbacks, and the lobbyists, all of that comes into play, and to now it really comes into its own of being unaffordable healthcare. And when you compare these two systems, Korean National Health Insurance with the Affordable Care Act, even when it was funded, let's say there's, it's not, the subsidies are not going to expire, it's still a significantly inferior product compared to the Korean National Health Insurance, which is insane. Actually, it's just crazy. Almost says we are always robbing Peter to pay Paul. I need to find Paul. Ferrithus. Hey, Ferrithus is there. Good to see you, bro. Hey, I finished up the Viking dude. I don't know if you saw this on the previous video, but I finished painting this guy. This is a resin print that I ended up doing, and yeah, this is Ivor's, the Viking dude. And yeah, it turned out fantastic. So I thought you'd appreciate that. Yeah. So he's even got a little blood splatter on him and stuff like that. This turned out fantastic. So I'm really happy with that. Got to do a few minor details and then I'll do some parts. So I thought you'd appreciate that. George says, remember, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. That is a huge, big red flag. But yeah, even, people that have been to other countries like Thailand, who have retired in Thailand, or, Philippines, prices are significantly less. And of course, in Philippines, you have to be in a big city where the big hospitals are. You'll get the best care that you can. Kind of the same thing in Thailand. You can't just go to any hospital, because you will notice a vast difference between the big hospitals where you have medical tourism and so on and so forth, the big five, compared to local hospitals or clinics. There is a disparity between the levels of care, which is huge, sometimes criminal, in my opinion. It is what it is. But here in Korea, I am really happy. And even if you go to country hospitals or clinics, you're going to get a little bit less quality care. It's just a fact all around the world. But again, you're not strapped with the massive debt. In things, it's like, oh, well, you used an out of network anesthesiologist guy, or an out of network this or that or whatever, who works in the same hospital that is in network. So the insurance company can deny your claim and put the bill on you. That is totally insane. So yeah, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Terry says, the guy I deal with on Medicare, that when we moved to Korea, that I don't have to come back. He said I need to keep pay for Part B in case we ever come back. Yes. And that's the next thing we're going to take a look at. So if you all will go to, and let me copy this website down. It's rsokorea.org. And this is not a government website, but it is run, and I belong to it also has its own Facebook group, but it's a collection of information that's good for, let me bring this up since I just popped the link on there. It is some great information for military retirees and stuff like that. If we go to, the main page here, it's kind of retiree support overseas for expats living in Korea. Knowledge about living in Korea, healthcare, so on, so veteran support services, everything else, banking, all of this. It's got a lot of great information. And even if you're not a veteran, there's still some real good information on here. So stay informed, subscribe to the newsletter. I highly encourage that. The guy that runs this thing does some really good work. And it's just been a blessing to be able to have access to this information. Again, it's not an official government website, but it's a great way to get good information. Like case in point, we'll get to that. I'm turning 65. Help. Let's go back to the Korean National Healthcare. They've got some information on it that you can find here, and then it also talks about TRICARE as a qualified health insurance that can be used in lieu of the Korean national health insurance. And how do you apply for the exemption and everything? Like I said, you'll get a thing in the mail, and you can do that. Korean national health insurance is similar to Medicare Parts A and B, but does not have the age 65 requirement. Some more information. Finding Korean medical services, umedi.com. That's a pretty good place in which you can find an English-speaking kind of business that will hook you up with in a network that takes TRICARE and so on and so forth. So I kind of recommended that. But if you've been here, you're going to be going to a hospital. Like around here, you go to Good Morning Hospital, close to Camp Humphreys. If you're up in Seoul, you're going to go to St. Mary's or Samsung or whatever. Down south, I'm not sure. But they also, to find a hospital, they have Navigating Korean Hospital Handbook, and that is updated annually by the Brian D. Allgood Army Community Hospital. So that is an official document there. They update it pretty well, so that can help you find medical care. And then it talks about having TRICARE and the national health insurance. There's that. Again, information and contact, all of that stuff, and just some, pretty good. Open PDFs. There's the application for exclusion for your health insurance. So when I use TRICARE Overseas Select, I used this form, filled this out, and sent that in. And it's a great website. So with that, let me see, what else do we got going on? Let's get back up here and boom. Faritha says, well, national health care just works out better value-wise. You have much bigger leverage for negotiation. I'm lucky I have really good insurance in the U.S. I'm definitely an outlier, I know. Yeah, and then when you look at the overseas insurance and compare it to ACA, you're just like, why aren't we doing what Korea's doing or doing what Japan's doing? And I don't know. Excuse me. Faritha says, the Viking looks awesome. Wish I could paint like that. I just finished installing electric on the new deck. It's even to code and probably save $500 from an electrician. Awesome. Save that money. And you probably, if you're one of those attention to detail person, you probably did it to code better than a lot of electricians. So knowing from what I know about you, you're probably one of those people. So good on you. So anyway, the healthcare stuff. Talking about the 65, Corsair was asking about that. So let's take a look at that. I almost skipped over that. So here on the rsokorea.org site, and again, it is not a government website, but we'll post it up there. And this has the information for turning 65. And let's see if we can make this just a little bit bigger. Talks about enroll in Medicare Part B 3 to 6 months prior to your birth month. Medicare website says 3 months prior, but their website allows you to start up to 6 months prior. Do not wait. Verify your DEERS record. Again, this is orientated or geared towards military retirees. DEERS is a place where you sign up, your family, it's on record, just kind of like, after Medicare enrollment, to make sure Medicare properly automatically updated DEERS to reflect the enrollment. So in other words, you sign up for the Medicare and then you go back to your DEERS to verify that it has been updated. Because Lord knows the government kind of screws up from time to time. Get your new indefinite retiree ID card. Go the month prior to your birth month, which for the retirees is the expiration month on your current ID card. A month prior to your birth month, usually. Indefinite status for retiree does not depend on Medicare enrollment. Dependent expiration dates and in-depth status varies, and they've got some information on that. Verify TRICARE that your TRICARE for Life has indeed started if you have enrolled in Medicare Part B. You can call the TRICARE office and get that. If you're enrolled in TRICARE Plus at Osan Air Base, they have a point of contact for there. Obtain your Korean ARC card if you don't already have one. Driver's license that shows you how to go about and do that. Ensure your passport is valid when renewing. Get a passport card for good measure. And it's got some other information on here. So yeah, it's got some good information, great information actually, for veteran services, Korean support, banking, ID cards, career driver's license, shopping, ration control, which is just a military thing, which is basically non-existent now, but more into healthcare, veteran services, a lot of good information and links for veteran services, and then just some apostles, cell phone service, driving in Korea, housing and property, and so on and so forth. Survivor assistance, which is really good. So kind of like if I die, read this book and this will show all my accounts and things like that, advanced directives and so on and so forth, end of life. Really good information there. And again, they're also on Facebook that we took a look at as far as the Retiree and Veteran Support Korea. So really, really good. Really, really good information. So I got to take a look at that Gerald F. Hiller Jr. and see what is going on with that guy, because I think there's more to that story. So yeah, there it is. We talked about national health care here in Korea and how it is infinitely better than the Affordable Care Act that we get in the United States, which if you don't get, you get penalized and fined for. And prices just keep going up and up and up, and it only services, the information we saw, only about 24 million people. So really, it was much ado about nothing. When you read the fine print of that, when it first came out, it's like, oh, that sounds really good. And it almost got me. And then I said, well, wait a second, let me get into the weeds and get into the details and see what this Affordable Care Act thing is. And it was just a way to get voters by saying, hey, free healthcare, but nothing is free. And he gave money to private insurers. A little bit of corruption involved in there. Yes, there is. Is there going to be corruption with the Medicare, Medicaid? Yes, absolutely. And, kickbacks, absolutely. We're going to find all that out. But the prices were geared to get increased. In other words, we're going to take on massive amounts of debt and kick the can down the road for an unsustainable healthcare product, but we don't care because in my administration, I just wanted to get elected to do what I want to do, and we'll just let the next administration deal with the fallout. Yeah, and it's just terrible, Soon we'll get Trump care. We're all on our own and get a check from the government. You better have no pre-existing conditions. And again, why are we settling for that? Why, whether it's left or right or, in between somewhere, the healthcare system in the United States sucks. I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's not a political party thing, but yeah, whatever comes up on this side, you're going to have problems. And whatever comes up on this side that we saw with the Affordable Care Act, it's going to have problems. And it's kind of like, one is going to give you some crumbs, and we're going to think, oh, that's awesome, for whatever side you're on. But the fact remains, there's way better products out there for national health care, 100% coverage, like we have here in Korea. So my thing is, why don't we just copy and paste what Korea is doing for the health care? Or, a good balance between what we pay and what people pay and coverage and so on and so forth. If it works for 50 million people in Korea, I'm pretty sure it would work in the United States. But if you did that, the problem is you would have to rein in the prices of pharmaceuticals that are severely overpriced in the United States, and the exact same pharmaceuticals are super cheap here in Korea and other places. You would have to rein that in. And so big pharma would not be making a ton of money. Corruption, corrupt politicians wouldn't be making a bunch of money. Lobbyists wouldn't be making a bunch of money. The behind the scenes dope deals that everybody does in politics, those things would all have to come crashing down. And it's just, It's not in your best interest. There's always some underlying thing that is the real interest. And who's getting paid? Where's the money going to? Follow the money and you will find. And the fact that you have a bag of Ringer lactate that costs like $1 and you have seen it for $150 a bag and get charged for that, that tells you the system is screwed. But you don't have that problem in Korea and in other countries because they have this transparency. And in all of Korea, an x-ray is the same price up north as it is in the middle as it is down south. Same thing, east and west, same price. There's a tracking of this, and some might say it's government oversight or overreach, but it keeps those prices low, so it's not that huge of a thing. So it just works a hell of a lot better. Let's see. Terry says they keep kicking Social Security down the road too. Yeah. I think if you did like a national tax or a tariff, you'd never have to worry about Social Security ever again. But then again, if you invested the money into the market instead of people who are working are paying for the people that are on Social Security now, and so it's dependent upon the population, that's a system that's been set up to fail from day one. Look at, don't get me started. Ferrith says, well, there are proposals like national health care, but you're immediately a communist and want the downfall of the USA. I know. But the problem is that's such a provincial view. And, they think the crumbs that we've been given for the Affordable Care Act or whatever type of health care that we've had, they think that, this is the best in the world. And it's like, you need to get out more. It's not communist. Korea's not a communist country. They're working it great. Healthcare is awesome. Prices are low. You're still going to have increases because the cost of living goes up everywhere, but it's not going to be abused by lawmakers. It's not going to be abused by insurance companies to artificially drive up prices of saying, hey, well, we're going to cover this much. And they're in cahoots with the healthcare industry and pharma. And so everybody raises their prices, and it just kind of like college tuition and higher education costs. It is insane that as soon as they got approval to do education loans for student loans, that you can't claim bankruptcy or whatever, kind of like medical debt, that all of a sudden the prices for higher level education just skyrocketed through the roof. Oh my God, seriously, it's been insane. And you go to other countries and you're like, how come your college is not expensive like the United States? Well, because we're not as corrupt as the United States. In this way. Ferrith says, well, there is a national tax for Social Security, but there's a contribution cap. Lift that and Social Security is saved. That's true. That would be a great thing to do as well. But at the crux of it, it's based upon the population. And the subsequent generations that we have that are coming up are significantly less, so you have less people paying into Social Security. So that's another reason of why we have the shortfall in Social Security, and that it's basically going to run out by 2034. If you just did a tax, and of course if you had the contribution cap on there or a variation of those things, again, you wouldn't have to deal with all of that. And then there's the fact that the politicians, if I remember correctly, borrowed a bunch of money from the Social Security fund that was sitting there gathering interest in building. Politicians borrowed of it, both the left and the right, basically gave an IOU, and then they never paid it back. So that's another reason why it's becoming insolvent. But I mean, it is just absolutely crazy. Ferrith says, but that would tax the rich a little more. That's why I like the Korean system better. In the United States, I mean, we actually do have a progressive system of taxes, and with a progressive system, and people are like, oh, that's a communist thing. And it's like, no, we have a progressive tax system. in the United States for federal income taxes and so on and so forth. But, there needs to be some adjustment probably. But again, the whole thing on Social Security is that it's just set up to fail as a Ponzi scheme to begin with. So that was dependent upon, population and numbers. And the other thing with Social Security, here's the problem that a lot of people don't think about, is that when Social Security popped up, and I think the first person that got Social Security was Ida Mae Fuller, I think was her name. She paid a few months into it, and boom, then she got paid for the rest of her life. But she was in her 60s, but life expectancy at that time was really low. Now life expectancy is in the 70s and 80s, and it's not uncommon to see people that are in their high 80s and 90s. So really, Social Security at the time was to take care of those really advanced age seniors that kind of went against the grain of life expectancy, and there was a small amount of them. So as we had increase in healthcare technology and food and all of this stuff, to make people live longer, better, faster, whatever, life expectancy has gone up, but the Social Security starts at 62. And it's like, in reality, it probably should be raised higher. Drawing it at 62. But again, that's what was built into the system. It was built to, ancient things that we don't follow today. So yeah, taxes. I think we need to do some more tax overhaul in the United States. I think it needs to be a little bit more progressive. But the automatic saying, we need to tax the rich a ton, it's a big discussion. But in regards to healthcare, it works in Korea, so why can't we just copy and paste that in the United States? Oh, that's right, because we can't make tons of corrupt money deals under the table. Ferrithus says, well, it's really baby boomers that are so many. X and millennials don't have that problem as much. And that's the problem, is that you have the boomers, and then you have people like me. I'm not a boomer. I'm X, I guess it is. I don't know. I don't feel old, except in the morning when I get up, I'm stiff. But yeah, this huge amount of population, and everybody's working and paying. Everybody that's working is paying for those people that are on Social Security. Then you have Social Security disability, and then you have all these people that have long life expectancies on Social Security. Boom, they're on it. And now the following generations are a smaller population, and so not as much money is going into Social Security, and we have more money going out. So not enough going in, too much going out. And that's why the program is going to be insolvent. So there needs to be some type of income, some revenue stream into Social Security, and it's either going to be like Korea does or other countries, raising the Social Security draw age. I honestly, I think that should be a thing because it's way too low. If you can start drawing at 62, which is what I plan to do, I'm going to start drawing at 62, but I'm probably going to be into the 80s. Statistically, I'll probably be into the 80s. And for somebody, who exercises, has good nutrition, you could probably, mid 80s, stuff like that. So really, if it really was a catch-all for the senior of seniors, that was a small minority of the population back at the time when it came into being. That's not how it is today. So I think the draw age needs to be changed. But again, the whole Social Security thing, I mean, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and there's not a lot of Peters around. Well, there's a lot of Dicks, but there's Richards. There's not as many Peters as there are Pauls, and that's the problem, is what it comes to. Corsair says, retire at 65, wait until 67 to get some money, live to 120. Yeah, I don't know, 120. I don't know. I'm looking at like 85. That was kind of my plan. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It depends on medical advancements. If I continue to take care of myself and all that, we'll see. But yeah, people that are in their 70s and 80s that are working out and looking hot, they're rocking it in their old age. Whereas there's people my age that look like they're 70, 75. They're old, they're decrepit, they can't walk right. And it's just because they haven't taken the time, they smoke and drink and all that stuff, and it's just wreaked havoc on their body. Faritha says, haven't they increased the age that you reach full retirement? You're not getting the full amount at 62. Yeah, that's absolutely true. They have raised the age, but I don't think it's enough, in my opinion. And a lot of people don't like me for that because again, if you go back to when Social Security was first instituted and you look at the age that people got it and the life expectancy, it wasn't a huge gap like we have today. So that needs to be adjusted. Yeah, I don't know. And you couldn't draw early back then either. So there's been a lot of changes to Social Security. And then now there's Social Security disability that came into play that if you're disabled, and there's tons of fraud, waste, and abuse in that. Granted, there are people that are truly disabled, but then you have so many people that are scamming the system. The hen house door has been left open and they let the fox in, and nobody cares. There's no accountability for our funds, unfortunately. So, but then again, with all of that, that's another outlay of expenses that comes into play. Terry says, I'm a boomer, and there are more Gen X millennials than boomers now. Yeah. And smaller and smaller generations after that as well, because nobody's knocking boots and having kids. So, Corsair says, you need to drink more matcha latte. You live longer. Absolutely not. That was horrible. I wouldn't say it was horrible. For me, drinking matcha latte was like somebody put fresh cut grass in my latte. No. It just, for me, it's not a thing. If you told me that I could get another 5 years by drinking matcha lattes added on to the end of my life, I wouldn't do it. It's just that taste. It just doesn't do it. Matcha, I could see it as a tea in and of itself, but you have lattes. Never the two should mix. That's all. Just for me, anyway. The matcha. That was rough. My wife didn't like it either. George says, U.S. Social Security system isn't the only system with problems. Look at the pension system in the UK. It's a disaster at only a third of the size. Yeah. It just... And it's like our education. I just don't understand why the United States takes the best of everything, or it used to, and make it better. And now we don't do that anymore. Everybody remembers the big thing on education. Oh, education is important, blah, 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 blah. It's the big push for education and funding of education, taxes for education, and this and that, and property taxes going to education. And then you have fees and added on to where you're paying for education, and yet we're getting no good return on all that money. The administration has grown exponentially in education, but our reading and math scores and comprehension and the number of students that go into higher level and can perform well, it just tanked. Whereas you look at places like Korea or Japan, schools don't even have janitors because they make the kids do it because it teaches them responsibility. Korea is like, and you look at the nations that have the best math, reading, history, all of those educational scores, and say, okay, well, what are we going to do? We're gonna raise billions, millions, and billions of dollars. We're gonna have a Department of Education. We're gonna fund the administration out the wazoo, and we're not getting the results like these other countries that have nowhere near the amount of money put into their educational systems, and their admin for their education is minuscule, and yet they're pumping out kids that have math and science scores that are through the roof. But there's no corrupt money to be made through that. So that's why we don't do that. Terry says, born from 1960 to present is still 67 for 100%. They are looking at making it at 70 for 100%. Yeah. And I fully expect that they'll do that. So I think I'll be at a place of where I'll draw at 62 and maybe I'll be grandfathered into that. Peachy Green says, hello. Why, hello. Welcome back to the show. Good to see you. It's been a while. George says, my uncle is fighting that one. Yeah. It's just so much stuff going on. So much stuff going on. Yeah. And that's kind of jarring for a lot of people. When you are well-traveled, or perhaps you come from another country and you come to the United States, or you're like me, you've gone to other countries and you've seen how people live, or you retired overseas, you really get this, this realization that the United States is lacking in a lot of areas. I mean, I'm still a patriot at heart. I believe in the rights of citizens, freedom of speech, able to redress our grievances, and firearms, the whole 9 yards, all of those things, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But when you see the playing field and so many other countries are on the ball in certain areas compared to the United States, you're like, well, why aren't we doing that here? Why? The medication that I spend $500 for, the price is $500, but across the border in Mexico, it's $7. Why is it $500 when other countries are getting it for dirt cheap? Oh yeah, because there's contracts, lobbyists, just throw a corrupt politician and they'll screw up everything. So it's no longer, I think, about the people. They claim it is, but a lot of things in our politics in the United States really, really isn't. It's rare that there is politicians that are actually focused on helping the American people as a whole. Ferretha says, Steve, education for all, healthcare for all. Go away with all these leftist socialist ideas. Oh, no. I say get rid of the, I know, right? Education for all. I've always been for that. What I'm against is the fraud, waste, and abuse. Why do you need a Department of Education? Let the states do their own thing, set their standards. You'll have that, competitive thing. But we've been put into a corner so that we can't actually do the things that we want to do because it falls outside the bounds of the norm that the government has set up for rules and laws and education and so on and so forth. I remember when homeschooling became a thing. Oh my gosh, it's like, how un-American are you to not go to public school? Holy crap, it's just like, yeah, you're a communist. And it's like, no, I just want my kid to get a good education. And and homeschooling is subjective because it's dependent upon the curriculum and the people that teach it. If you're dumb as a bag of hammers, then yeah, you probably shouldn't be teaching your kids homeschool. But now you have online venues to do that. You have course curriculum that is set up that is really, really good. And we're regularly seeing, online education is so easy these days. You don't even need to go to a brick and mortar school. You still need to have the social activities to get, how to interact with people and so on. But there's, that's easily fixed. And it's terribly efficient. And you get a better quality of education, unfortunately. But if you just compare the countries that have high math and science scores and you look at their curriculum and the number of hours that their students study and do homework and the standards they have, it's like night and day in the United States. It's really, really crazy. When my daughter ended up, because we spent a lot of our life over here in Korea, and she went to, Korean kindergarten and stuff like that, and then she went to school on the military base, which had higher standards for education. And when we got to the United States, my daughter is like 2 years ahead of everybody. That's how slow the public education system was. And it's like, oh, we don't know why your daughter is, she's not paying attention and stuff like that. And it's like, well, what are her grades? Well, she's getting A's. So what's your complaint? Well, she's not paying attention. It's like, because it's easy for her because she did this stuff like 2 years ago. And yeah, it's just, it's unfortunate that we have dumbed down our education system the way that we have. Peachy Queen says, is it affordable to retire in Korea with retirement pension and disability only? Yes. It depends on what your expenses are where you live. But for us, and we'll just kind of go over this just a tiny little bit. So let me see, comparing the costs of, where is it? I've got a comparison of kind of this right here, of comparing these two things. And some of the expenses, so like housing or rent, where we were in Colorado was $2,000. Now, again, this is old and outdated, but in Korea, a similar price was $1,400. Property tax was $165 a month. Here in Korea, it was $16. I think it's like $20 a month now. Electricity in the States, we were paying $140, $150. Here in Korea, it's like $40. Gas and heat was almost $100 a month in the United States. Korea, it's about, averages out to about $65 a month. Water was $40. Korea here, it's like $10. Trash, $20 a month we were paying, and that increased. Korea, it's part of our apartment fee, and there's no individual listing for trash. It's just included, so that's why that's why I said it was basically free. Internet, $75. We were cheap, but generally I knew a lot of people that were paying over $100, $120 a month for cable TV or for internet. We pay like $15. Cable TV is $135 is what we paid. And here in Korea, it's $15. We get 250 channels. Most of them are Korean. There's a handful of English-speaking channels, so there's that. Cell phones was $130 a month for 2 phones. Here in Korea, we're paying $80. Car insurance was $115 in the United States versus the $110 that we had here in Korea, which, by the way, we had an adjustment to our car insurance because we weren't driving as much. So they said, hey, you get reduced car insurance. It's like $95, $97. So yeah, it's for us, it was about half of what we were paying in the United States. So, which is really good because that allows us, now there is a caveat with that because we had enough money to buy an apartment. So the largest expense that we had is housing, and we don't have that. We got our little apartment fee, which includes the electricity, the landscaping, the elevator maintenance, and all of that stuff, the groundskeeping, the guards. You know, we have underground parking, we have security here and stuff like that. But still, the water, the trash, and all that stuff is way cheaper. So depending on your housing or, you know, the rental situation or you're buying, that can be probably the biggest expense that you're going to have. So depending on your housing and what you choose and what you pay, you could retire comfortably in Korea. You know, granted, if you have a Korean spouse or have the right visa, education visa, or whatever it is. We don't live in Seoul either. You know, so there's that. Places like Seoul, Busan, close to Osan Air Base, housing is really expensive. So there's places in Korea where, most people in those high-priced areas wouldn't be able to retire on a military retirement and disability only. But there's a lot of places on those outlying areas, kind of like what we do, that you're able to do that. So I hope that answers the question. Faritha says, if you let the states do their thing, then a ton of states in the Midwest will not be able to afford good education. Not enough people to pay, very low population density, so you need many schools. Yeah. But then there's the whole thing with the internet and getting your education online. You know, it's a whole new dynamic that would need to change away from the brick and mortar schools that we used to have that was prevalent in our society from, pretty much the whole time. But recently, coming into the 90s, the 2000s, and so on and so forth, there has been kind of that moving away from that. And yeah, it's really interesting though. But yeah, and then like you said, you have those areas where the low population, and yeah, it's just weird. Peach Green says, were you stationed in Korea when you were active duty? Yes, absolutely. I spent many years in Korea. First time I got here was 1988, just prior to the Olympics. I was up at Camp Page in Chuncheon for a couple of years, and then I just fell in love with Korea. I taught English at a Korean university on the weekends, which was cool. I was getting paid for that. And then after that, they kind of closed down and say, hey, you don't have an ESL degree or certificate, so you can't get paid anymore. And I said, well, I'll just teach for free. Can I do that? Conversational English. So that was fun because, go out and coffee and see Korea. They get to practice English. I got to see Korea. It was a win-win. Then after that, I transferred down and got another job at Camp Humphreys, Korea. So I stayed here for a number of years. Went back to the States, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and then came back to Korea. Went up north, Camp Garyon / Camp Pelham. Worked up on the DMZ and stuff like that. So yeah, we spent a lot of time. And then I came back down to Camp Humphreys again. And then, so we had a lot of time in Korea. So that's where I met my wife. And yeah, she's awesome. And it's 35 plus years. We're rocking it. So yeah, it was, and most people in our situation of where one spouse has Korean ancestry or is a Korean citizen, one spouse is an American citizen. In my case, my wife was born and raised in Korea. We got married. Eventually, she became an American citizen. So with her coming back, she has the F4 visa and I have the F1 visa. And that is how we're able to retire in Korea. Of course, we have to meet the income requirements, background, FBI checks and all that, which is funny because my wife had to get the FBI background check and turn that in. I didn't have to. It was weird because my wife was the F4 visa holder. They required an FBI background check, but as a spouse of an F4 visa holder or applicant, I don't need an FBI background check. Not that anything bad would come up anyway, but I just thought it was kind of funny about that. But yeah, it was spent a lot of time in Korea, so we kind of knew the area. We had done a lot of traveling in Korea. We have Korean family members on the wife's side that we could verify expenses and property tax and things like that. I use Numbeo, which is a very good website to kind of go over Numbeo. For the cost of living on places. And if you take a look at that, there's Numbeo. And you can get the cost of living comparison of different places. And let me put that in the comments section down below, because that is a really good site. It's generally a pretty good place. So like if we do cost of living comparison for current city, let's say Colorado Springs, Colorado, and we'll say, or do they have Anjani? Nope, they don't. They just have Pyeongtaek, South Korea, and then there we go. And then you can compare those and sign up to continue. Really? Seriously? Oh, there it is. So it still pops up. Cool. Great. So the cool thing is with the Numbeo site, you can really go through and you can see, you can use US dollars as the currency or whatever it is. So, Colorado Springs versus Korea, Pyeongtaek, Korea, for an inexpensive meal at a restaurant, $20 versus $6.82. So the markets, grocery shopping, things like that, transportation, taxis, utilities, You can see the differences there, which is a pretty decent indicator. There are some problems with this in the fact that with the Numbeo site, it doesn't have the city that I live in, and so some of the costs in Piontek are a little bit more expensive, but it gets you within the ballpark. So that was a really good way of finding out information for that. Peachy says, I'm sure your wife's family is happy with y'all living in Korea. Yeah, it is. They're good. And we have our boundaries. We visit them and we do the holiday things. So you definitely need to set boundaries with that. But yeah, it's good. And I drugged the wife around the United States and other places for so many years. And so I don't have any family that to deal with. And so being in Korea, her family's always been better than mine. So yeah, it worked out well. George says the money argument doesn't work. Look at Chicago. It is one of the highest funded school systems in the country, and most of the graduates are functionally illiterate. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Just because you throw money at a problem doesn't mean you're going to get results. And many times, yeah. I mean, look at California, the highest taxed state in the United States, and there's fees and this and that for education, all other stuff, and the quality of education and the people that they're putting out, their education levels are dismal. It's just unfortunate. Throwing money, there has to be a plan. You can't just throw money. You have to have a plan and then put money to it, which, yeah, you just copy the education of different countries and that are good in math and science and do what they're doing, we would have an outstanding education for our populace, but we don't. Almost Retired says, going to Mass. Bye. Alrighty. Well, hey, have a good one. Say a prayer for me. Need it. With that, it's getting close. It's 8:30. It's almost time for me to get going. We got to head out to the gym. So hopefully we answered some questions for some people. We went over the Korean National Health Insurance, compared that against with the Affordable Care Act and some of the costs, and what are you getting for your money when it comes to Korean National Health Insurance versus the ACA, and what can you expect, the type of healthcare that you can get in Korea if you're going to do what we're going to do, retire in Korea under F4, F1 visa, or if it's a student visa or work visa or whatever it is. A number of people have been asking for that, so I got the other requests, and so I'm like, yeah, I really need to, make a video on this. So hopefully this answers a bunch of questions. Faritha says, enjoy your day and workout. I had CrossFit this morning. Ooh, CrossFit. Ooh, nice. Today for me, yesterday was chest and back. Today is going to be legs and something else. I'm not sure. I'm trying to hit legs twice a week, and I'll throw something up. Maybe I'll do some work on traps, but definitely legs, probably a little bit of shoulder-ish trap action. We'll see how that goes. So, yeah, good having you aboard. Yeah, good stuff. Veritas, always good. Everybody. George, almost retired. Peachy, a number of other people. Terry, that came in on this. Of course, Corsair, that popped in. And, yeah, we just have some real good discussions. George, happy in Soko, South Korea, first time, great, good stuff. CB, let's see, who else? Did we have anything else? Sparky popped up. Yeah, very good. Yeah, we're getting a few more folks here, so that's always some good stuff. I always enjoy it. The one thing that I need to ask from all of you is to like the video. I would really appreciate that. It does wonders for appeasing the YouTube algorithm gods, and that helps. It's just kind of a thing I do since I'm retired. Do the YouTube thing. Helps with my socialization of like-minded people and with smart people, because I need all the help I can get with hanging around smart people. Faritha says, nice. Today was all shoulder and legs. Friday is push day. Ooh, yeah, I need to work on my legs. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing that. Yeah, and I highly recommend other people exercise. It is probably one of the nutrition exercise are the two best things that you have to improving your quality of life as you get older and staving off the crap that you can get from being old. And having a better retirement. So start now, and the benefits are awesome. You just can't throw money. You just actually have to do the work. So it is what it is. Okay, so anyway, if you could like and subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate that. The obligatory outro that we have here. The email address, if you want to send me an email, a number of you do, just to say hi, or links or articles or information that you have found. People even sent me pictures of their brisket and ribs that they've smoked. Oh, so good looking. 3D prints, hobbyists, all of that stuff. Yeah, people over here that bought me coffee, you can do that. That's fine. I don't really care about it anymore. But those are some awesome people. And if you have questions about retiring in Korea, we're so happy to share our experiences and answer any questions you have. So hit that email address if you want to do that. I always answer my email. Might take a couple of days, but I always answer the emails. So with that, we'll just go ahead and tell everybody to take care, like Fairtha says. Take care. Always good seeing you. Same. And everybody else that came on to the stream. Really appreciate it. And with that, we will see you all on the next video. Peace. Good stuff. Good.